I initially chose to skip watching the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, not only because of the large amount of criticism it was getting, but also I just wasn't at all interested in the movie. Man of Steel wasn't very good, and other than the first couple of teasers, everything seemed to show the entire movie when the trailers were released. When I heard that there was going to be an extended cut released around the time of the Blu-ray release, I decided that I could just wait and to watch that version just to avoid all the problems that the theatrical cut was getting. So going into this movie, I didn't have any reference to compare to, as this was my first viewing of the film. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is a perfect example of throwing too many ideas into a movie that was already too crowded as it is. From setting up the fight for Batman and Superman to just getting to the setup for Justice League and future sequels and spin-offs to come from this film. Too much was going on is what I was thinking throughout the entire runtime, as I noticed that nothing specific was focused on. The film just throws idea after idea at you without diving more into any of them. I kept thinking how much better a film this would have been if they had just stopped everything and focused on one single idea or theme to stay on target with. That was just the overall problem with the film's story. Really, when you go to individual scenes and look at them placed back to back, they don't really make much sense either. For an extended cut, I would have assumed that this would be fixed, but I could only see that it didn't change anything. The film feels like it is all over the place because it just jumps from scene to scene, and in most cases there aren't any established shots to let you know where you are at. I noticed how one scene would focus on one thing only to jump to something completely different that you would guess takes place at a different time, but then the next scene jumps back to the previous scene again as if nothing had happened. I honestly feel like you can break this movie down so much as to how much it gets wrong about the characters it is portraying. From Batman's origins being butchered in the opening credits, to Lex Joker Luthor Jr., to the fight between Batman and Superman having no weight to it at all. What makes all these aspects even worse is that the overall design of the film is tailored toward the comic book versions. From the iconic shots and scenes that happen, they are straight up taken out of the comic books, but the way they are executed is the complete wrong way to do this. As an experience, this wasn't fun at all. Not all superhero movies need to be, but when you are this bleak with no weight to anything, it just becomes boring and exhausting. Superman is supposed to be the contrast to Batman, who is dark, and by creating that contrast between them creates the interesting dynamic. Not having both of them be dark and depressed, and on top of that not true to their characters, and so you are just left with empty, hollow characters in the end. I can't see myself ever wanting to watch this movie again. There just was nothing to return to, and for being a 3-hour long movie, I can easily watch other films that are much more enjoyable. I would say this film was a misstep, but it isn't like Man of Steel was a great starting point either. With so much already planned for on the way, I don't see how I can be excited for any of the films that are connected to this universe. Me personally, I would much rather see this universe started over from scratch and with a stronger creative team behind it. It is very clear that DC wants to catch up to Marvel, but it is a race that isn't even achievable, especially when they are making films that are doing the opposite of getting you excited for what's to come. I would say it would be best to skip this one and instead watch some of the previous incarnations of these characters. So what did you think of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice? And what did you think of the Ultimate Edition? And how did it contrast from the previous editions? And did you see the original edition, and did it add much more that made the film better? Leave your comments down below and leave a like on this video and subscribe for more content like this in the future. And until then, see you on the next video.